Brandon Ramatton.
Maneem Mujahid.
Dejan Drzenovich.
And Patrick Carney.
What does Plato's Allegory of the Cave tell us about how you recognize things?
Well, I believe that Plato's Allegory of the Cave is just the world that we all see today is just a false one. And the only way to see the real one is to educate yourself and become an intellectual like Plato himself.
Exactly. So what he's trying to say is that we only see what's directly in front of us and we don't see beyond that because exactly like what Pat said, we're not that intellectually advanced yet. So based on your intellect, you're going to be able to perceive more than the average person. So what Plato is kind of also saying is he believed that wisdom was only given as a birthright to certain people, but those people that were given that birthright have to show others how they can perceive other things and the better ways to see things in life.
Kind of like with like what Munib said, Plato was talking about how like many politicians or maybe like higher born people during their time, like since they were in position of power, like didn't really have like the point of view of like the lower class, like the people in the cave. So Plato was talking about like how they should be stripped of that like intellectual view and like go into the cave to like be able to see how the lower class lives, to be able to like be kind of like a better politician in ancient Greece.
Well, before we get into this, I think we should talk about what the Allegory of the Cave actually is, like what the story is, so we can talk about how it relates to everything. So the Allegory of the Cave is basically just there are these people chained in the cave, and they can only see the shadows of like real objects on the wall. And every time they gradually advance, like they can see the real objects, and then they advance out of the cave, and they see like everything as it is. And some people actually struggle with this, but others will, like intellectuals like Plato, will take this and they'll keep going, and they'll keep advancing to the next intellectual plane.
Yeah, to add on to what everyone said, basically, your perception is, you develop your perception of reality through the things that you go through and things that you experience throughout, your life. And so, in order to really have a full perception of reality and really understand the entire aspect of the world, you need to go through different things. You need to expand your knowledge on different topics. So in the cave, these men only had a true understanding of the shadows that were playing with the objects. But as one of the men broke out into the world and saw the light and everything else, he saw the trees, the flowers, the sun, the sky, the clouds, and the animals and the people. His perception was 10 times better than he had originally in the cave, because he opened up his mind, he gained more knowledge, he gained a better understanding of the world around him.
And he discovered more. And so when he discovered more, he felt like that he needed to share that with everyone else, because he was thinking that what's the point of him only being the one to discover everything when he could be sharing his knowledge with other people and truly raise their intellect, also making everyone else wise too.
A big question that everyone has is how can you go your entire life accepting shadows as your reality? And I think an answer is when you're born into something that you're so convinced is real, it's gonna be really difficult in order to overcome that and see past it. Because think about what if we were all what if you were living on this planet your entire life and you found out everyone around you was aliens? You wouldn't you would definitely freak out for obvious reasons. And I like to call this the Matrix effect. Because if you ever seen the movie The Matrix, a great movie by the way, everyone they're all plugged into computer reality, and then once they're unplugged, they have to it's actually a post-apocalyptic future, so they have to overcome what they actually knew in order to become new people and be actual live in the real world.
Exactly what Pat just said. I honestly feel like that made complete sense, because it makes it seem like it's the perfect example, because we see what everyone else sees. We don't see beyond that. We just see what's directly in front of us. We don't go beyond that because we don't feel that there's a need to. But in actuality, as Plato's getting to, you need to go beyond that comfort zone in a sense and see what else is in the world.
Yeah, I don't know what everyone said. Throughout the story, Plato mentioned shackles in the mind, which is basically just a shackle is something that confines your vision and affects your perception and ultimately affecting your reality. And so today, many people, their minds are shackled by things such as social media, television, the radio, internet, and other means of communication. The reason that these things are shackles in the mind is because when you use these things for entertainment or to expand your knowledge, you only use it to expand the knowledge of things you either approve of or you like. For example, if someone was liberal leaning and they turned on the news and wanted to watch Fox News, they'd almost immediately turn it off because the viewpoints are so different, and because of people's inability to really expand their knowledge into things they don't like, they don't want to do it. So therefore, once they turn on Fox News or another conservative news channel, they would go to a more liberal-leaning news channel such as CNN, because their viewpoints and their perceptions are kind of the same. So therefore, they'd be more inclined to watch it.
Exactly. Like they want to stay in their comfort zone. They want to stay in their comfort zone, and they don't want to go outside their own bubble. They want to stay where they feel most comfortable and safe.
Exactly. Exactly to add on what Munib said. Every day when we use these things, we shackle our minds, because no matter who you are, you always want to confine yourself to things that coincide with your viewings or your approved points. So therefore, in order to get a better understanding of the world and to really better your perception of reality, you need to start doing things that you don't like or don't approve and get the other viewpoints so you can see how other people feel and what exactly they want compared to your desires.
Yeah, so to like add on to what Rembrandt was saying earlier, how people would like turn on the news and like disbelieve or believe, like depending like which side they're kind of on, what kind of faction they belong to. An example of this is like how they would like completely believe like something like that they would agree with, like even without like no proof. So like for example, if like the shadows in a cave were like two different like colors, like if it was like two different like lights creating the shadow, maybe the prisoners would believe like one of the shadows are real and the others aren't. So this is like an example of like today how like in media there's like maybe like left or right leaning media. So like obviously a left leaning person will like believe like liberal media or something like without like even needing to like hear any facts or anything. They know they would think that they're a professional, so obviously they would like believe it. So it's like their perception like in a cave is like less just because they have like a closed mind view.
Yeah, they're simple-minded. That's what they are. It's Plato doesn't want us to be simple-minded. He wants us to go beyond our own perception of the world and see what's truly out there.
Basically, to put it in modern terms, it's really getting outside of your comfort zone and doing things that you really wouldn't like so you can get the viewpoint of it and really understand what people go through, what people really think, and get inside their minds so you can expand your own perception of reality.
What's called? And I think like a lot of things like people ask is like, what happens when people discover this like new reality? Well, I think there's only two paths they can go. They can either like not accept it, go like revert back to their old paths, or or they accept it and then move forward with it. And I think like the people who revert back, like they're unsuccessful because, well, then you're just accepting something that you know isn't real, but like you thought was real. And that's like kind of like self-destructive, like what they were talking about with the factions and like the political like leanings. It's essential that if you're going to be an intellectual, like Plato says, like you have to take into account like both sides. You have to like move it. You have to take in all the information and move forward with it. Just like the people who were in the cave, they take whatever they have and what they know now, and they move forward.
Yeah, also like it's kind of like how like the shadows also represent how like everything has like deeper meaning. Like the shadows is kind of like on like only like on a surface. The shadows is just like a one-dimensional like representation of it, but kind of like a metaphor for like that like everything has like deeper meaning without you probably even knowing it. So Plato wants us to like look into that like deeper meaning.
Basically, to sum everything up, Plato wants us to really expand our perception of reality by educating ourselves and basically going outside of our comfort zone and trying new things, going through different experiences, talking to different people, getting really understanding different viewpoints, so that when we do fully understand these viewpoints and we get outside our comfort zone, we add on to perception of reality and we make it richer than the person who's confined and shackles their mind.
Let's go. I think a perfect way to end this off is there's a quote from Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, and it's another great movie. I know with movie references, but he says that he was born into the darkness, and like so while like Batman tries to use the darkness to his advantage, he wasn't like that wasn't the reality he was born into. Like he was never part of that reality, but Bane was. So like he is able to use that, and he's also able to use all the new skills that he has to move forward. And like you take everything that you had, what you knew, what you know now, and you push forward.
Great talk.